CBS News senior national security analyst Fran Townsend is a former Homeland Security advisor to President George W. Bush and joins us at the table to discuss where to begin, Fran Townsend.
Oh, boy.
You know this area very, very well, the wiretaps, the warrants. Can you imagine any scenario that President Barack Obama would have ordered a wiretap at Trump Tower to look to see what Donald Trump was doing?
Gayle, while all presidents have broad national security authority, once with the passage of FISA in 1978, I know of no president, including President Obama, that would have directly ordered the surveillance of an individual in the United States. By the way, Washington is horrible at keeping secrets. So if a president tried to do such a thing, you can be sure that the bureaucracy would have pushed back and would have leaked.
So
Sorry.
What do you see here, Fran? What scenario do you see?
So it seems to me, if there's a wiretap, and there have been public reports that there was a request for a FISA in July, it was denied. There was then a FISA request in October. That was granted.
FISA request of what?
Well, it's not clear, right? I feel confident it's not of President Trump, but could it have been of one of his associates? We've heard wide reports of contacts between Paul Manafort, Mike Flynn, Carter Page, and others. So could it have been one of the associates around him who also during the transition was working in Trump Tower? That's possible.
What would that indicate, Fran? If a court approved a warrant to conduct surveillance, what would that indicate? What would the court have had to have seen?
So the executive branch doesn't do this on their own. They must present a full affidavit establishing probable cause that an individual was an agent of a foreign power. In this case, it would have been Russia. And the court would have had to authorize the surveillance. That only would have been good for 90 days. So let's look at the timeline here. If that was granted in October, it would have expired or sometime in January, either before or after the inauguration. And if it was an ongoing counterintelligence investigation, that wire, if reauthorized, is still up right now.
Do you think it's possible, then, that there was a FISA against one of the president's advisors, and as a result, that ensnared either the president himself or someone close to him?
Well, that's entirely possible, Norah, that they were able to establish probable cause based on contacts with Russian officials, whether that's in Russia or here in the United States, like the ambassador, that they could have made out a probable cause case. When you use the word ensnared, it's entirely, it's not always sort of a nefarious motive here.
Sure.
Oftentimes, Americans are talking to somebody at the embassy looking for a visa or an innocent reason, and there's contacts, they come up on a wire. And so it's entirely possible that the president or others...
Except President Trump didn't say, though, that it was one of my
FBI
associates
director.
or one of my team. He said that the president went after me. How low can he go? How sad, how bad? That's not what he said.
Right. Well, I mean, look, it's 140 characters. Language is not always very precise. And so I think it remains to be seen. As Chairman Chaffetz said, we haven't seen direct evidence that the claim is true, but this remains to be seen yet with the congressional investigation.
The FBI has asked the Department of Justice to publicly deny the wiretapping allegations, which DOJ has not done.
Right.
What does this suggest to you?
Well, it'll be interesting to see if DOJ does it today. I will tell you from my time in the Justice Department, you're reluctant to get into this because if you come out and say there was no wiretap against the president when he was president-elect, the next question from people like us is, well, is there one on his associates?
Yeah.
Which one of his associates? And you don't want to get into this back and forth, especially if it's an ongoing investigation. I wouldn't read too much into it. I would not be surprised if the Justice Department does not want to get into this publicly, especially if this is ongoing.
I mean, it sets up an extraordinary confrontation between the president of the United States and his FBI director.
It sure does. I mean, and for a whole lot of reasons. Look, the irony of this is the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, who's responsible for this entire FISA process, has recused himself in this Russia investigation. His Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, a very well-respected career background in prosecuting, his nomination hearing, that's today. Poor Rod Rosenstein's going to have a whole lot of questions to be asked.
You ever seen anything like this?
Never. In all my years, when I was a specialist in FISA, nobody knew what it was. I hardly thought the expertise was going to be so useful.
We're all becoming experts now.
Right. And it's so good to have you here to talk about it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Fran Townsend, thanks so much.